So back in 1999, Tony Stark arranges a meeting with one of his fans while he's at a New Year's party. He skipped on it because he's too busy getting late. So anyway, fast forward to 2013, Tony makes a new suit. Then the 10 Rings come on the TV and are all like, Chinese cookies are American, let's blow shit up. Gwyneth Paltrow is having a meeting with Tony's fan from the beginning of the movie named Aldrich Killian, except he's hot now. Jon Favreau, Tony's bodyguard, is suspicious about Aldrich and his bodyguard. So he follows Killian's bodyguard, and the bodyguard blows him up because reasons. Luckily, he survives the explosion, but he's put into a coma. Tony visits him in the hospital and gets all sad and then does the most logical thing in the history of ever. Okay, you already know where this is going. He gives his address to a terrorist and then doesn't do shit to protect his house. At all. And then surprise, surprise, a bunch of helicopters blow the shit out of his house. Tony survives and then Jarvis takes him to the middle of fucking nowhere and then his suit runs out of battery. He drags it to some random house and oh look, it's the kid from Insidious. I have to say, Tony isn't tame with this kid at all. He's pretty much me around kids if I didn't care about what I say around kids. So anyway, Tony goes to a beauty pageant and gets the guy in the TV van to find out where the Mandarin's hideout is. The Mandarin's hideout is in Florida. And I gotta say, with all the crazy people in Florida, it's really not that unbelievable that he'd be hanging out there. Tony drives all the way to Florida. Meanwhile, the Iron Patriot suit gets taken by Killian, and he uses it to infiltrate Air Force One and kidnap the president. Tony figures out that the Mandarin isn't real, we'll touch on that later, and he immediately gets captured. Killian explains his plan with the extremists, syrup, and that it gives people heat powers. Tony busts out of the place, but Killian gets away with the Iron Patriot suit. Tony goes after him with Rhodey on the boat. Killian blows a hole in the Air Force One and kidnaps the president, and all the passengers get sucked out of the plane. Tony saves them all, and then immediately crashes the Iron Man suit. Tony and Rhodey go to save the president in a fucking badass action scene where Killian gets blown up at the end and Pepper supposedly dies. Then Killian emerges from the fire, then Gwyneth Paltrow kicks Killian's ass, Tony blows up all the suits and then has an operation where he fixes Pepper and then even fixes his heart. What the f? Okay, so let's talk about the positives. So the kid in Insidious wasn't too terrible. I mean, like, for kid actors, he was pretty not annoying. I thought he was good in Insidious, but come on, he was in a coma the entire time, so what were we really expecting? The Mandarin. Okay, this is a big one. So at this point in the movie, a lot of the fans just kind of got up and left because they were pissed off about the Mandarin not being real. Marvel kind of thought about that and said, well, maybe we should change it. So they added in that All Hail the King short film on the disc of Iron Man 3 that's basically just like, yeah, the Mandarin's real, but we're not going to show him. And even when the Mandarin turned out to be Trevor Slattery, he was really entertaining. I think that just everyone was pissed off that he wasn't real and that Ben Kingsley was doing an excellent job portraying him, until that point at least. Okay, let's talk about the negatives. The Mandarin. Like I said, a lot of fans really hated that the Mandarin wasn't there, or it wasn't real. I don't know, I haven't read the comics, but I've heard that he's like the Joker to Batman. He's like Tony's arch nemesis. And I can totally understand that. Why I was pissed about it was because they portrayed him so well in a creative and new, fresh way, instead of just making him a wizard, like in the comic books. And then when they replaced him with Killian, Killian was so lame of a villain, you just kind of felt like you just got cheated out of like a great ending, or a great story. And don't get me wrong, Killian was fine, but it kind of follows the other Marvel villains in being really terrible, or at least terribly written. And the last one, Tony's heart. Why couldn't they just keep it the way it was? They had a bunch of symbolism with his heart being there, where they had his arc reactor to show that he's still a caring person and that Tony Stark has a heart, like in the first movie. Then why would you replace it? It makes no sense. You could have had Iron Man 4, or at least expanded upon his character in the next Avengers movies, which don't get me wrong, they did, but still, like, why do that? Does it really cost that much to just add in a little bit of light effect? I mean, really, Marvel, really. So what's my rating of this movie? Overall, it was extremely entertaining, and for those people who aren't too into the comic books and who are basically weren't hyped up for a Mandarin battle, you're gonna enjoy this movie, and I'm giving it a B+.